Welcome, level uppers, to the sixth episode of the Netflix Club. I'm one of your co-hosts, Andrew. I make the show Midori, and I've got with me the classy douchebag Mike McLaughlin.
Hi.
Just us two this week. Kristen refused to watch Castlevania. This is just not her kind of show, I
I
guess.
mean, do you really blame her though?
No, I don't. I don't think she would have enjoyed it. I don't think she would have hated it either.
Oh,
To be honest with you, I don't think it was a show that's like offensively bad by anybody's
no.
standards. I think that she would have been okay with it. It's just not something that really it doesn't really
Grabs her.
scratch her itch. Like there's nothing about it that really would work for her or that she desires to see. So,
Right.
yeah, I get it. I'm fine that she wanted to skip this month. I mean, we're going to get into it heavily, but I thought it was solid. I'm really glad that we chose it for this month's Netflix Club.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I mean, I jumped on it a little bit later than some of the other people, but a couple days in, and I devoured it within one day, within one sitting.
Well, it is very
Um,
short. It's
it
only
is, which is
four
you
episodes.
right. It's a gripe that some people can have, but at the same time, like I'm somewhat okay with it. So I don't know where you want to start, but I mean, I'm just gonna go out there and say I freaking loved it. I've said a few times, I think on the show even, that you need to watch this show if you are a fan of video games at all. You definitely should watch it because it's probably one of the best game to media
Mhm.
adaptations I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think so as well. We're going to get into that, of course. So we got Louis Bay in the room and also Silas. Doug is here, and he said, "Boo! It was well
Nice.
done. Even Lindsay didn't mind it." So there you go.
Wow.
Lindsay liked it, and I think that I bet Lindsay isn't too into video games, right, Doug? So I think if unless you're like real into vampires or something like that, maybe that's why Lindsay liked it. Maybe she was into Twilight. I don't know, but
Right.
not that that's why anybody would watch Castlevania. But yeah, I think anybody could have gotten into this. I think guys,
Yeah.
girls, video game players, non-video game players. I think this is a show that anybody can watch, and it's very accessible because it's only four episodes that are each
Right.
20 to 21 minutes long. You can breeze through this, and that might even be one of my few complaints with it is that it's a little too short. But we can wait to get into that. The whole point of Netflix Club is that we talk with you guys, the viewers, about each month's selection. Of course, we are talking about Castlevania, the Netflix original series this month. We've done Okja in the past. We have done 13 Reasons Why. We've done Iron Fist and more, and we will continue to do every month. Next month's selection is Death Note, the original movie for Netflix. We're very, very excited to check that out.
Almost on the show.
What was that?
I'm almost on the show. I
Oh,
think
you're
I'm on
almost on the
episode
anime, yeah.
21, I think it was, or something.
Yeah, so you're a little more than halfway. It is like 37 episodes, but
Jeez.
yeah, it's a
I don't
little
know how
longer
much
than
more I
you
gotta
think.
make.
Yeah, it's as I've told you before, like that first half is really great, and then it does slow down a little bit, but you'll get through it. It's not bad. It definitely
Right,
stays
no.
solid. But that's why I'm very excited to talk about Death Note next month. But we'll have to wait
Right,
until
absolutely.
the end of August to get to that. If anybody would like to actually take part in the show tonight through voice, Discord is active. You guys can get into the TLUSQ voice channel, and we will drag you onto the show. Here is the link in the chat for you guys. It is discord.gg/levelupnetwork, or you could just click on that link there in the chat, and it'll bring you to our server. Yeah, anybody can join the TLUSQ, and then we can drag you on to discuss the show. Mike, what were you expecting, like going into Castlevania? Like, are you a fan of the video games? Did you ever play the video
Love the
games?
video games. I've played the video games since I was a little kid. Actually, it's one of the first games I've ever played. My entry into video games was my uncle's NES, and he had Castlevania. Ooh, I want to say Castlevania 3 for the NES.
Okay.
And I mean, I loved it since then. I've played every single, pretty much every single one. Super Castlevania, Symphony of the
Symphony of the
Night,
Night,
pretty much,
yeah.
yeah, everything. I love the DS series. Those were my favorite ones. Dawn of Sorrow and Portraits of Ruin, and I can't remember the other one. Order of Ecclesia, I think it was. But anyway, I really, I was expecting something more traditional with it. I figured it was going to be, you know, one of the Belmont, Belmont or Alucard or somebody,
Hmm.
walking up to the castle and going through trials and tribulations and weird stuff happening in different rooms, and an exploration of the lore, maybe flashbacks of why things were what they were. But I was pleasantly surprised actually when it started.
Yeah.
starting with the backdrop and the backstory of, why Dracula was the way he was, why there was so many weird, like, why does Dracula need a giant science laboratory, that I need to fight enemies in constantly? Like, I'm not understanding this, but it kind of delved into that a little bit too. And it was really cool in that aspect.
Yeah, I agree with you there because the only one that I have played in the series is Symphony of the Night, which is often
Okay.
considered to be the best or one
Yeah.
of the best, and I would agree it's an excellent game.
Yeah.
Very memorable to this day. But at the same time, I was trying to think back when I was watching the opening of the series, and I was like, did the games delve into this, like into Dracula's backstory, that he had, a wife, and that he essentially masqueraded as a human for a while until she was taken away from him, and then he just goes fucking berserk and gives the town a year to evacuate before he comes back and causes mayhem. And what a crazy scene that was in the first episode when he does come back after a year and just decimates the town. Because
this is what you do a year. I give you 1 year and you celebrate my wife's death. Like, that was so like bad, man. Like, and I do want to say I love and not that no undertones anywhere else, but I do love that they took the risk and went through the effort to put the church in such a bad light, because I think in a series like this, doing something like that is integral, because you don't want to feel like either side is good or bad. One of the best characters in it is Alucard, and he's not obviously of the church in any way, shape, or form. So to not want to take sides with the church or not, try to see, especially if you don't want to push, any religious, endeavors forward, doing what they did was great, and it showed, corruption and, of power, especially,
right.
Especially as you go on to the series. But I wasn't sure, but I did not expect it to be nearly as gory as it was.
Yeah.
And I was surprised and happy. Not because I need like a gore fest, but just because I didn't want them to take and pull any punches, and they absolutely clearly didn't.
It was more than that. It was just gory. It was that it was violent against women and children. They didn't really hold back in that regard, which I'll agree. I was happy to see in a certain way, just that they were willing to go there. I don't want violence to be gratuitous and unnecessary, but in this case, I mean, a town being attacked by these demonic creatures, it made sense,
Right. It wasn't like it was every episode you see like multiple kids getting slaughtered, or like some other shows where they show like rape and everything. Like there was a child, a mother. Like one of the most graphic scenes was that like mother, like looking into her baby's bassinet, and it's just like blood everywhere, and it's just like, fuck, man, they're like, no one's safe at all whatsoever. Like and then even in the second episode, like even just in the fight scenes, I think it was the second episode where after you finally see Belmont, and he whips the clergyman in the eyeball, and his eyeball's just hanging off the side of the stonework. And I even said that I was like, this is probably my favorite scene, because it was that combat that I really, really was hoping that they would nail the right way, and I feel like
they did nail the combat scenes, especially in that last episode. But first, let's go back to the first episode again. They do show off who you eventually know is Alucard in the first episode, but they keep him hidden. They never say his name. Obviously, I know who Alucard is. I know the lore of Castlevania, and I was streaming this while watching it, so there's a chance that I missed a hint that it was him, but I did not realize I was Alucard until the last episode. What about you?
Really? So I mean, I did, just because I was like, who else would it be? Is my thing. Like, I didn't know that, but my surprise was I didn't know that that's the route they were going to go. Especially when you see that they were going with one of the Belmonts, and for the storytelling. Because before this I had not looked anything into it. I wanted to be completely surprised. So once I saw that you were following along with the Belmonts, I was like, all right, they're not doing Alucard, or maybe they'll do it, later on, something like that. But I had a feeling that had to have been him.
Yeah. Once it was revealed, I was like, "Oh, obviously that was Alucard." Why did I think that was Alucard? At first, they showed him. I was like, "David Bowie?" Seriously, they totally modeled him after David Bowie.
But they also, and to touch on that, it was a very short scene and I wish it wasn't so short. And I'm sure they're going to touch on it later in the second season. But that scene where he's disagreeing with his father, and he's like, hey,
Yeah.
this is not okay, we shouldn't be doing this, they're not all bad, look at my mother. Like
Yeah.
he showed that he wasn't saying like have pity on them or anything like that, but he was a reasonable, level-headed person.
Yeah, and I think that he just felt like vengeance wasn't the right way to go.
Right.
Yeah, a very interesting dynamic there between the two of them. But Alucard doesn't come back till that final episode, which is the 4th episode. In the first episode, Dracula just goes hellbent, on revenge. And when he becomes this big fireball over the town, and it almost feels like what's the story from the Bible with the locusts and the 7 plagues? It almost felt like that was what they were going for there with this like evil god. And again, I was thinking in my head, like, is this how powerful he was in the games? Because I do not remember him being this powerful, that he can become this huge fireball over the town. Like, really?
I mean, obviously with the games, I feel like what happens with the games though is they had to kind of hold it back. I mean, you gotta remember it came out at a time of 8-bit graphics, where they couldn't really do as much as they wanted to, and they tried touching on that with, what was it, Lord of Shadow? Right. I think it was where they went 3D, and they did go grand scale boss fights, like with Devil May Cry style. But most of the big boss battles were with big demons, and Castlevania kind of handled Dracula's fights more intimately. One-on-one, he had like special moves, which was kind of the theme at the time. But realistically, if you go into the lore, yeah, he was a powerful demon. He communicated with death. Death feared him, which is why he wasn't he had no way of being taken by death. So he definitely had the power in the games. I don't think they were ever able to really show it, and I think it kind of formed around that, to where if they ever added it later on when they actually could have, it just wouldn't have felt right in place. But again, a great way to transport a beloved video game to media, where you just add on to what the limitations were in said game.
Right.
And I loved it. I think they handled it, because he obviously, yes, he could have done that. He could have probably, if they really wanted to, he could have figured out a way to just wipe out humanity within an instant, but they didn't. They kind of let it be balanced in a way where he manifests himself. And that's also why it's the giant fireball, but it's kind of like Saruman and his like glass, and he's like talking, it's not really him going into the clouds. He's just manifesting the clouds. He's controlling the clouds.
Right.
And everything like that. So it's,
if nothing else, it was neat, like it was a cool
it absolutely was.
Scene for sure.
And then after that, we finally get to see Belmont, and what is his first name? And it's
Trevor.
showing me that I can't remember. Trevor Belmont. Thank you.
Yeah, well, he wasn't in the first episode at all, right? If I remember right, the first episode ended.
He was in the first episode.
He was. I thought it started the second episode with him in the bar, and that was it.
You know what? I'm sorry. You're right, because that first episode ends, and it's like the demons coming in. I think the last scene of that episode is when he slices Alucard, and you don't see anything.
Right.
I think it just fades to black.
Yeah, and I kind of like that the first episode was just all about the backstory and Dracula and that mystery of who this guy is. Obviously, we all should have known it was Alucard, but went over my head for some reason. But then I really like how the second episode started with Trevor Belmont, and immediately changed tone from the first episode. Where
it was very goofy.
It was this sense of humor.
Was so perfect. Like that music was so entertaining, and I loved it. Like it was one of those things that in some things it definitely wouldn't have fit. It would have felt forced. But in this, it worked so well in his behalf. Like he flowed with it well, because they wanted to make this stumbling hero. This almost like Antihero. He's human, he's flawed. And again, it's a little cliche, but it's a freaking video game. We're all expecting it to be pretty cliche.
And it also brought a little bit of that anime vibe to the show, which I appreciated. It didn't go too far into that, but there was just that little taste of it. Richard Armitage of The Hobbit, he played Oakenshield, I think. Was it Tristan Oakenshield in The Hobbit? Pretty much one of the main characters in that series. So, a name actor, somebody that people recognize, and he played Trevor Belmont. And I thought he did a great job bringing that sense of humor to the show. I really appreciated that from the very beginning, especially him being a drunk. I just thought that was the best, especially him fighting as a drunk. It was almost like he's this drunken master. Thorin, thank you, Thorin Oakenshield.
That bar fight was great, and especially I like how they led up to it too, where he kind of stumbled into it, and he was trying to avoid it. He didn't want any trouble, and he was trying to play this drunkard that didn't know any better. He was like, I don't want any trouble, I'll just pay my tab and go. And they weren't letting him have it, and it kind of shows you the flaws of people in that time. Same thing with the church. Basically they're trying to show you that humanity's kind of fucked because of their own wrongdoing. So don't have too much pity on them because they keep bringing it on themselves.
Yeah, well,
Um,
he is, as we know, he's a Belmont, and in this setting that they've set up here, the Belmonts are hated
mhm.
because his, I guess the woman that was murdered was his ancestor. Is that correct?
No, I don't think that's what it was supposed to be.
Was the woman that is Dracula's wife? Did she have any relation to the Belmonts?
No, I don't believe so. I don't think it. I mean, they didn't allude to it in this
Okay.
at all. All
I
they
was
alluded
curious
to was
about
that
that. I was
they.
wondering if that was one of the reasons they were hated as well, because they had a
No, they
link
were
to
hated
dark
because
magic.
and over the past they were excommunicated because they dabbled in dark magic. They
Right.
figured out a way. They figured out that the best way to fight these all powerful vampires,
Hmm.
similar to Dracula, was to practice the dark magic. And you'll see kind of something like that later on when they touch into some of those secondary tools that you have in the games, which I loved. I thought that was a perfect nod to the game series itself. But yeah, they kind of realized that you need to have a little bit more at your back than just a sword if you're going to fight these demons. So they were chastised for it because they thought it was just works of the devil, and they thought they made a partnership with the devil. So people were just looking for something easy to blame because they don't want to accept that they're in the wrong.
Right.
Um, and that's kind of that's the theme of this entire show, and and I like it. But those people in the bar were part of the problem, and they didn't once they saw he was a Belmont, they kind of started confronting him after their rants about how those are the people that are ruining the world and this
Hmm.
and that.
It was
So
cool too how they kept his outfit that was similar to what we've seen of him in the games, but they kept him
mhm,
in that kind of fur cloak the whole entire series until that
right.
final episode where he takes it off and he has the sigil of the Belmont house,
Mhm.
and that kind of fully comes out there, and it's a cool fan service scene when they do that. I'm trying to think of the character that he meets. That he goes down into the like underbelly of the city essentially, because there's a certain priest that is looking
Right.
for
So
his granddaughter, if I remember right.
yeah, so
um,
he ends up stumbling upon a city that's walled off, and he goes up and he sneaks his way in, and he's trying to find out what's going on. They say that people he's talking to in the city said that they have a group of speakers, and they say the
right.
town's gone to hell, but those are the they're essentially saying these speakers are the reason why, and we're going to kill them all, and then the town will be fine again. Again, they're looking for an easy thing to blame. So they're thinking like that, and he knows better, but he doesn't want to get involved. He just wants to live. He wants to live his life. And as he's going through, he sees injustice. He sees again, I used the quotes earlier, but it was perfect. He sees these clergymen, which you later see are just kind of taken by this guy that's just been consumed by power. This idea that he's going to have all the power, who's kind of almost like the main villain of the show.
Yeah.
And he comes to his aid. Probably one of the best fight scenes. We even saw it earlier where there was blood on the stone. There was a clip where it showed it. But he goes through his fight, and he even says like, "Oh, that's a thief's knife, an odd thing for a priest to carry."
Yeah.
Which I thought was perfect. But he helps the speaker. He finds out that they're looking for someone who's missing, and this is where it gets a little bit more boring. Because it wasn't without fault. As great as this show was, for as short as it was, for it to feel like it dragged at any points, I felt were a little troubling to me.
Hmm.
So any of the parts, and I don't know if you agree with the speakers, I thought dragged. I think a little bit more than they needed to. Not that they were devoid of any
um
helpful or interesting information, but
I agree and I disagree. It was definitely the slower parts of the show, and
Mhm.
when you only have 4 episodes, you probably don't want any slow parts. I would agree with that, but at the same
Right.
time, I did appreciate that they were trying to develop these characters and just have some slow moments where it's just them talking to each other and building up the lore and the backstory of what's going on there and the characters
Mhm.
themselves. I appreciate that. I don't disagree though that maybe in a 4 episode season, maybe just keep it moving, keep it fast paced. Maybe save that for the second season, which Rick said in the chat is going to be 12 episodes, which is great news.
Right.
So yeah, I don't disagree with you there. I thought it was pretty neat though when they went down into the Undercity and they fight the Cyclops. I thought that was a pretty badass
Well,
scene.
there was a few cool things that they did to that because I mean the one nice thing about the is that they definitely they definitely showed attention to the games right there perfectly as well. Where going down there to fight the Cyclops, it was a weird enemy with a bunch of weird abilities that wouldn't normally make sense for the character,
Hmm.
for what it was. We think of the Cyclops as just a giant human with with one eye. But this thing was able to freeze you and laser you down,
Yeah.
and it was perfect for that. So he rescues her, and then they come back up. He finds out it's a granddaughter, which I thought was great. That fight scene though with the Cyclops again, though, talk about handling something that was in the video games, in multiple video games where you fought a creature like that, and you had to have, for someone like me, especially, and anybody else that's played the game, you have a sense of worry, like, how are they going to do this? Normally in the game, it's just you're standing here and the other guy's bigger than you standing right here, and it's just slash, throw something, slash, throw something, that's it, and you're jumping all around. And in this, he was diving behind walls, and the Cyclops was shooting, and he jumped up, and it was stylized, but not overly so, to where you felt like, oh, I wish I had that power in the game, but I'm so happy to see this here that I really don't care. Like this
I think that was the scene. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that was the scene where he uses his whip and the knife, right? And he wraps the whip around the knife and like swings it and throws it, and the knife goes
And
into the
throws it
eye.
at him.
Yeah, that really cool fight scene there. Short, I have to say, but still cool. That was the thing about the series, is all those fight scenes were very short and sweet. Which
Right.
makes me hope for something a little bit more epic in scale in the second season. Maybe they were waiting to see how this first season does and see if people grab on, and I guess that they did, because they have ordered 12 episodes for the second season. So maybe they're
Right,
going
absolutely.
to have some big, epic,
So,
style battles in the second season.
I mean, you just touched on it, and a couple people are bringing it up in the chat. You were saying, because Rick was replying to someone saying about it being short earlier, and Louis Bay had brought it up a couple times. He said, do you think it was more walk down memory lane? I think it's a combo of that, as well as what you just said, which testing the waters. This was something different. It was an anime. I mean, they tried to do anime shows on G4 where they did X-Men and a few other things, and it didn't really take off very well. And I think this was like it's been done before, let's see how this works. And I think it worked very well. But I think they also wanted to have it be at least informative and interesting for newcomers who don't really know anything about the lore, as well as, hey, listen, I know we're explaining a lot, but we understand where we're coming from, and this is it. This, we have this and we have that for you, like that. You see it right in the beginning. You see the whip, and that's legendary for Castlevania fans.
Sure.
Later on, we'll touch on it. He asks the girl if she has any holy water, and she does. He blesses it, he throws it down, and it's blows up in blue, and that's probably the thing I use the most out of anything in the games. So you have a lot of nods to where it came from, and I think it was like hey, I respect the series, I love the series, I know where the series is coming from, so trust me, I want to see this do well. So I do think it's a lot on that.
Yeah.
So I like, even though it was very short, I said to many people, yes, it was short, but that doesn't mean it was bad. It was very much a prequel to the show. Like, I felt like this, you don't treat this as a series as much as you are an explanation of what the series is going to be.
Another thing that I really enjoyed about the combat, it was short and sweet, except for that final fight that Rick brought up there. The final fight was perfect. That was really well done, and it's like they waited for that final moment in this first season to really go all out and do a really cool fight scene. I really enjoyed that Sypha brought the magic to the combat, and when they worked together in that third episode to take down all the demons in the city and build the wall and funnel them together, all that kind of stuff was really neat. If I had one complaint about that, is that the entire series, it felt like they were getting off super easy. Like, nothing was a problem. Like they were decimating like these demons. Like Trevor doesn't have any problems against the people in the bar fight, even being drunk in the second episode. He takes the guy's eye out, and like he really doesn't have any issues even with the Cyclops. The only time he has somewhat of a struggle is against Alucard, which is the right moment to play that up, right? So it does feel
exactly.
like it builds to that, but at the same time, like as I was going through the series, I think by the end of the third episode, I was like, is he going to face a challenge at all in this? Like, he's not challenged at all so far. And then I was really happy in that last episode when Alucard came in and really, gave him a run for his money.
That's not 100% true. I mean, he did actually face a big challenge right before he went to Alucard when they were in the city. He recognized that he wasn't going to be able to fight this on his own. that one big demon that was kind of controlling the
Yeah,
other
but I mean,
ones.
everybody coming together, they took that thing down pretty easily.
Right. Well, he knew what he was, but he's also, again, this is what he does for his life. This is what he's always done. This is everything
Yeah.
he's known. So I didn't actually have any problem with that myself. Just because, again, I agree with you. I think they did save it for the right part in this series, but I also think that you're going to see him have a lot more trouble in the next, and that's why they're bringing all three of them in. So I don't have nearly as much problem with it as maybe some other people did. I don't know if you really did.
Not a big problem. I think
there's a lot of creatures, and I think there's a lot of blockades in their way that he's going to have a hard time coping with. I think that's kind of what they were also trying to set up, that this guy doesn't really have a problem dealing with any of this stuff. So they're going to make that part of the problem for next season.
I think another thing for me that was sticking in my mind is throughout the first several episodes, they keep drilling into you that he's out of practice, like that he hasn't been demon hunting and really using these skills in a long time. And he comes.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess it's like riding a bicycle, because man, he comes right back, no problem. He's like throwing spears, 500 feet away and taking people out. I'm like, oh shit, okay. And also, how long is his whip, man? Sometimes it's like 40 feet long, sometimes it's 10 feet long. I don't know.
And that's actually one of the things where, unless you were a fan of the series, you would definitely feel that way. For someone like me, as you go through the games, you have upgrades, even in the NES. So your whip suddenly, you get an upgrade and your whip's longer, and then you get another upgrade and your whip's longer, and that's really all they could do at the time. They could, they put a chain ball, on it at one point in some of the games, but that I didn't have nearly as much. I mean, I get it. It seems really goofy.
It was humorous.
For me, I loved it because I thought it was another perfect nod to it, to where they came from.
I saw that. Doug was asking who did the animation. I'm seeing here Powerhouse Animation Studios is who I'm seeing. So not the two that you mentioned, which I think is good news for you. It seems like you were concerned that some of the other...
He was saying that they're working, one of their animation studios is working on Agent and Knights of Sidonia.
Right.
He said.
Yeah, it seems like they are spreading the wealth to a few different places, because Powerhouse is responsible for this one, as far as I can tell. But going to that final episode to talk about that Alucard battle, that was just so badass. Because first of all, Alucard is just an awesome looking character in the series. Even without the shirt, and when he does also put on his costume, I was like, that's badass. He looks freaking awesome, and the long sword, he looks like Sephiroth, for God's sakes. I was like, this guy is the shit.
Let's be real, Drew. He came before Sephiroth, so Sephiroth got his looks from out.
True. Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's a ton of anime characters that look like that. But either way, just a really badass design on Alucard. And also, I appreciated that battle, Trevor's like going all in, because he thinks it's Dracula. And Alucard, you can tell, is holding back. And from the very beginning, I was getting a vibe, like, before I knew it was Alucard and they revealed it, I was like, this guy isn't bad. You can tell, like, he's holding back.
Testing him,
yeah, he's holding back. He's not trying to kill Trevor here. And then they reveal he's Alucard, and I just wanted to facepalm myself, like, come on, man. Obviously, it's Alucard. And just at that point, I was like, that's awesome. This is a really cool turn. I really like the direction they're going here. They're all come together. You got Sypha, you got Trevor, and you got Alucard walking away at the end, like they're going to come together to fight Dracula. And I was like, oh man, I can't wait to see how they handle this in the second season. It was like a prologue. It wasn't even like a first season. It was like a prologue to the first season. Which is cool.
You said exactly the same way that I've liked hearing it be described, because it's not a true season as much as it is just an entry, just as a little tidbit, as a kind of step into the water of it. One of the things that's interesting, and I think another one of the weakest points, and you kind of helped to show that, is that the main enemy was not, I mean, as much as it was Dracula, the main enemy of this was like the mini enemy, which was that one cardinal, who tried to collect absolute power. And it's funny that you barely even brought anything with the church up at all. Because that was really what they were focusing on almost from the first episode. The church was the bad guy and everything. And if it wasn't for the church, Dracula wouldn't be hellbent. So even though Dracula, is considered the main bad guy, really it was the church that started it, and they continued it throughout the series. Yet you didn't say anything about them.
Yeah, they were really more than anything just a story mechanic. I felt in this first season.
Right, and they definitely were. But do you think that's a misstep? To make your main, if your main villain, technically is forgettable, or at least unmentionable when you're trying to describe the series to somebody, like, do you think that that's a problem?
I think that if this was a full 10 or 12 episode season, I would have said yes, but I mean, being 4 episodes, I think we all might have assumed like we're not going to get Dracula in a
Mm.
big capacity in this first season. It just doesn't make sense to kind of blow their load on that this early. So I kind of like that this first prologue here was more about setting up Dracula and giving an impetus to his storyline and why he turned out the way he did. And that's just the church. The church was the
Mm.
impetus for that. The cardinal, I mean, God, he dies like in no time at all. Like the one demon comes in and eats him
You
alive
just
or
eat them.
something. I
Yep.
don't even know what happens. They just
Right.
they,
Yeah, that
they
was
cut they
weird.
cut away and just a whole
That
bunch
was
of
well.
blood.
That's the other thing that I thought was
Yeah.
weak is like his death, while it was fitting in a way, was just a little bit too quick. I think for someone who was so
Yeah.
evil and so instrumental in everything that happened, they kind of should have shown a little bit more. You know, they already showed babies dying and eyes hanging off of walls. Like, why couldn't you just show him being dismembered? You know, I think that would have been a little bit more satisfying than just, hey, I'm gonna eat you, and then cut to black. You know,
Yeah.
so
At the same time, though, like I didn't mention them because they didn't feel that important to me in this first season. They were just the impetus for a whole bunch of stuff that
Mhm.
happened. I felt like the first season, this prologue was more set up for everything to come, and that was just a way to make it happen. So I don't consider it actually a negative at all. I wasn't like negative on those scenes in particular, like the scenes that
right,
were establishing the church, or I wasn't down on those scenes. They were fine. It was all set up for me.
right, absolutely.
Louis Bay says season 2 could add more to the background story and flashback. Yeah, very true. They can go a lot of different directions here. They can bring more Belmonts in. Trevor's just one of several Belmonts, so they could bring other Belmonts in either through flashback or introducing to them to the story in the present. We're gonna
Mhm.
have to wait and see. I wonder how far away the second season is. Have they commented on that at all?
Rick said 12 episodes.
Yeah, but have they commented on when it's coming?
Oh, when? I thought you said how many. Not that I've seen.
Okay. Um, with last chance here, guys. If anybody does want to come on and give their opinion, voice their opinion, they can right now. I'll put the link into Discord one more time. If you would rather just stay in the chat and let us know what you think there, please do. We'll read off your comments. Discord.gg/The Level Up Network if you want to join the server. Just get into the TLUSQ and I will drag you onto the show to join us as a voice guest so we can actually talk about it. I wish
Rick,
Dracula would have killed him, honestly, said
right.
Rick.
Dude
Yeah.
deserved a worse death. And right, exactly. Like I think that it was kind of robbed of him. That said, I think Dracula was fine. He died, and that's okay. But yeah, I think they could have definitely touched on it a little bit better with that.
I'm trying to think. Did Dracula appear in any episode except the first?
I don't remember if he appeared at all. I know if anything, he was in the background. I think he was because I think he sent the waves of demons out again at one point.
Yeah.
Like in the last episode. But I can't be 100% certain.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on that. I feel like he wasn't really in any of the other episodes, which again is fine. I'm not
Right.
down on that. It's only 4 episodes long. I was honestly surprised that like that first episode started with Dracula and was just really all about him. Looking back on it now, I appreciate that they focused on that in the first episode and just considered that almost like a prologue to a prologue.
Right. I'm
Which is cool.
pleasantly surprised. I mean, overall, realistic. I think we really touched on everything. For those that are on the fence, it hit on everything it needed to hit.
Yeah.
If you're a fan of the series at all, they have they touch on it. They have the Belmonts. They have Alucard. They have his whip. They have classic demons and monsters that he's fighting, including the Cyclops. They have his toolkit, which they use holy water, and there was another spell that they used that was telling of the old games, but I can't remember which one it was. But I mean, it hit on all the things it needed to. There's that fire face that you were talking about.
Yeah, this is the demon scene here. Very gory scene.
Mhm.
So look away if you don't want to see
Everybody watch. You're gonna have to see
heavy
it
gore. Let me ask you this. Now that we have our first Netflix animated series for a video game, there's more to come. Witcher is coming, although I don't know for certain if that's going to be animated or not. I think it's going to be animated. Assassin's Creed, we do know is animated. So, I mean, how are you optimistic now, looking at this and seeing the
I wasn't
quality?
pessimistic on Assassin's Creed at all before.
Mhm.
Anytime anything random and new is a risky venture for them. But I feel like they've had more hits than misses. So I'm okay with it. Jesus, I forgot how gory this was. I love it. Sorry. I like how I'm like laughing at a person's half of their body just chilling in the street.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I am optimistic. I think especially if the Assassin's Creed show ends up getting treatment like this, because this style animation would have been perfect for that as well. I think that I think there's good things to come, and I think Netflix really got a good idea of how beneficial something like this could be for
Yeah.
them.
It's like they got a foothold, on
Mhm.
that market now, and anybody that's in the gaming, even if they aren't into Castlevania, they can look at this and realize that these series are in good hands. Because Netflix, they establish quality in everything that they do for the most part.
Right,
And they've got several animation studios, as we discussed earlier, now that seem to be able to handle these kind of adaptations. This
right.
is not the only animated series that has been very well done on Netflix. Voltron is another one that was really, really well
True. Yeah.
done. And I'm excited. I mean, I think animation is a great way to go when it comes to video game adaptations
Hmm.
to television. Even CGI. I'm not sure if they're all going to be hand drawn, but I would be interested in seeing one of them go a more of a CGI route. Even if it's the Clone Wars type style, as we've seen on Disney XD, I prefer not that style, but
Hmm.
a little more stylized maybe than what we
Oh
saw there.
man, how excited would you be if they went with the CGI Final Fantasy show?
Kingdom
Completely
Hearts, I think, would be
story.
really cool too. Kingdom
Oh
Hearts
man,
would be
that'd be
great.
great.
With this,
I
like
think that would be a little troubling though, because I feel like they would do like a creature of the week type thing. I don't
yeah,
know how I
it's hard
feel
to
about
say. Yeah, just go traveling to one world each week. It's hard to say. I mean, if they could keep a lore established in the background as they do in the video games. The video games kind of are that way, where you're just traveling from world to world, but behind all of that is this lore and story that is establishing.
it. Right.
Which I think it would be maybe a cool way to do the show. And now that Disney is so involved with Netflix, you never know if you might get something like that. Rick says
Right.
The Witcher is a great choice. So many books and games to pull from. Definitely true there. I'm hoping for another Super Mario cartoon, says Johnny. You never
He's
know.
trolling.
You never know, though. You never know. Really, honestly, you never know.
Nope.
Nintendo has talked about doing Zelda. I don't know what happened to that. It just went away.
I would
Remember,
love
but
for them if they're gonna touch on a Nintendo
yeah.
property, I would love for them to either do again treatment like this but with Metroid,
Hmm.
make it a little bit more dark, or go and redo Donkey Kong again, Donkey Kong Country, make it like that goofy like kid show. I thought that show was entertaining. Like that show was legitimately a
Yeah,
decent
I'm
cartoon.
open to anything. I really am. Rick also said, I think this was a great fit for an anime, but Assassin's Creed is harder to pull off. I wonder if they'll go a more anime route with Assassin's Creed, or if they'll make it more Americanized in its
I
vibes.
don't know. They could. I mean, you gotta remember, what was that Berserk? I think is a good showing of what anime can do for a more westernized styled show. So
And Doug says many of the great video games would be hard to translate. Castlevania actually has an established timeline and story. It's not like Final Fantasy where it's different every time. But that's the thing about Final Fantasy is
right,
you can
they
do
can make their own story.
yeah, you just have to
They can
bring the
just make it
lore
from
in.
scratch.
Bring in
Right.
chocobos, bring in Sid, bring in summons, bring in the music.
Touch
bring
on
in...
crystals, and
Yep.
you're good to go.
Yep, that
You have
really.
crystal in your world? Great. Sounds good. It sounds like Final Fantasy to me.
They've already done it, actually. There was a Final Fantasy anime. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it was its own storyline. They didn't go into any of the games. But if they wanted to, that would be amazing if each season was just one of the games. Just do 12 episodes on 7, do 12 episodes on 8, do 12 episodes on 9. Like,
Make it like Doctor Who, where you get like transported to each one of like each season is like
yeah.
a person that's traveling through all the Final Fantasy realms, so you touch on each story from every single game. I think that would actually be really really good.
Calling back to another
No, I
comment
want
from
that.
Doug, he asked, and maybe you could answer this or the chat could, if you could recommend one Castlevania game for him to
Oh.
play. Do you have any recommendation there?
So what sucks is he said he doesn't have a DS. He could get one. I mean, if you can get one for cheap, I mean, it's pretty easy. I'm very partial for some reason, even though everybody says Symphony of the Night. I went back to it, and the problem with Symphony of the Night is it moves very slow. So I personally am going to say that the Order of Ecclesia, I mean, I'm partial to Dawn of Sorrow for the DS, but Order of Ecclesia on the DS is pretty well liked overall, and I think it has that original charm to the style. They kind of learned what they wanted to. I wasn't a fan of it when I first played it because it wasn't traditional Final Fantasy. Now I have that on my mind. It wasn't traditional Castlevania because you played as a different set of characters. So that's why I do like Dawn of Sorrow a little bit more. Yeah, Aria Dawn of Sorrow seems to be the internet's recommendation. I think that's my recommendation. So if you can get your hands on it, I would definitely go with that. But
And to comment on his other comment there, make a Final Fantasy 7 show, and I'm watching make a Final Fantasy 13 one, and probably not. Yeah, I agree that that is the problem they would face. Although for me, being such a Final Fantasy fan, I would 100% watch a Final Fantasy 7 show, and I would give a Final Fantasy 13 show a shot, just to see what it was like. I don't dislike Final Fantasy 13. I think it has some really strong moments actually, and I think the story that's there is actually pretty cool. It's just they didn't tell it in the best way because so much of it is told through text and diaries. If they would have incorporated that into the game through dialogue and cutscenes, I think the lore and the mythology of Final Fantasy 13 could have shined through. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But if you did a TV show, they're forced to push all this into the story of what's being shown. That could change things. So that's why I would be willing to give really anything from Final Fantasy a shot. But thank you to the followers that just came in too. Kawasaki and Best01B, thank you for the follows. Anybody else who's in the room, hit that follow button right now. We are wrapping up here. This was the Netflix Club episode 6. Tonight we discussed Castlevania, the Netflix original series, and we were both very positive on it. If I had to give it a rating, I think I'd give it I go with a 4 out of 5. I think
I would go 4 out of 5, honestly, only because it would have been 4.5 if it was a little bit longer.
Yeah, I agree. It was a little too short.
If it could have benefited from about 6 to 8 episodes, even just to tell this backstory. Even if they don't want to go the full 12 that they're going for next season, give us 6 to 8 for something like this. But other than that, I think it was animation, sound, art, everything was perfect for me. Otherwise,
right. Yeah, really solid start, and I can't wait to see what they do with season 2. Don't forget, guys, that the Netflix Club is a monthly series that we're doing. For August, we will be watching Death Note. You guys should watch it too. It comes out.
Dude, I hate that I missed that old intro, like that death metal one. I put one episode on, and Danielle was just like looking up, like, what the shit is on our TV right now?
Yeah, it's a little bizarre.
It's bad.
But we're not talking about the anime. We're talking about the Netflix original movie, which is coming out in the, I want to say like the 23rd or something like that. So you'll have a little bit of time to watch it. Moving forward, the way we're going to try and structure Netflix Club is that in the month after, on the first Monday, that is when we will watch. Or then when we will discuss the series or the movie that we tell you guys about. So let me give you an example here. August Netflix Club is Death Note, but we will be discussing it on the first Monday of September, which is September 4th. And that is going to be the structure moving forward, that the first Monday of the following month is when we discuss the show or movie from Netflix. So Death Note, get your apples ready, says Louis Bay. I'm so curious to see if they include stuff like that, the humor of the Shinigami.
I think they touched on it
Ryuk
a little bit.
I don't know if
they're going to touch the humor, but they definitely... I'm really excited to see how Defoe handles what's his
Ryuk.
name? Ryuk.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be super interesting. It's got to straddle a very strange line, and from what I've read in the advanced reviews, it might not do the best job of that. And it seems like it's one of those cases where who is this for? Because it's going in the middle, where it's not appeasing the anime fans because it's not going close enough to what they want. But since it's going with an anime nature, with the goofiness and all this, it's also alienating people that aren't into anime. So
it's probably perfect for somebody like you and me.
Maybe.
But like it's bad for other people.
Yeah, it seems like it's kind of trying to skirt that line down the middle, and it's not quite working for some people as when it comes to the performances.
We'll see.
But we'll have to wait and see. It sounds like it's gonna be focused on that Light versus L arc, which is the best part of the anime. So I am very excited to see that adapted and Americanized, to be honest with you, because we do have the Japanese versions of the film live action already that you can check out. You have that, and that's not going anywhere. So I think we all just need to give this a shot. We need to watch it, go in with open minds, and realize this is going to be an Americanized, condensed version of Death Note, and I think we might come out better for it. So I hope you all watch it. Make sure that you do. You guys will have over a week to watch an 2-hour movie. So I'm sure you guys can get that done and join us next month, or actually a little more than a month away, for Netflix Club episode 7. Don't forget that when we do these, even though it didn't happen tonight, you can join us on Discord and actually talk on the show. It doesn't have to be just through the comments in the chat. We're fine with that, and we will respond to your comments, but we are open to you coming on and voicing your opinion as well. That is the whole nature of Netflix Club. That is why we are becoming more and more community focused here on the Level Up Network.
Yep.
All right, guys. Thank you so much to everybody that joined us tonight. Thank you again to the couple follows that came in there. Laurie with the final follow. And everybody who commented. Rick and Doug especially. Thank you for coming in. Louis Bay for your comments. And Johnny, you as well. You guys are the best. We appreciate all of you. Catch us, of course, throughout the week. Not just with shows like this one, but with gaming talk shows and game streams here on twitch.tv/The Level Up Show. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to hit that sub button there. Like the video if you do. Leave some feedback. Leave some comments. Let us know what you thought of Castlevania Season 1 and what you're hoping to see in Castlevania Season 2. I'm Andrew Midori. Thank you for joining me, Mike.
Absolutely, every time.
This was fun. I thought this was a good discussion. I really feel like we got through everything.
We nailed every single thing.
Yeah.
I don't think there was anything we missed.
Yeah, there really wasn't that much to discuss, but
No,
it was good in that way that we could really touch on everything about this first season.
Perfect time, almost 50 minutes exactly. Almost. We were so close.
Yeah. Guys, thank you for watching. We'll see you next month for another episode of the Netflix Club. Until then, take care. And as always, don't forget to level up.